Maverick is a 1994 comedy western starring Mel Gibson, Jodie Foster and James Garner. It follows the adventures of a charming Old West gambler as he tries to raise enough money to enter a huge poker tournament, but finds himself a victim of double crosses, harebrained schemes, and a daunting and unpredictable gunslinger. It's a film that I've loved for years and seems to have almost no fans or cult following of any kind. So that's why I'm hitting rewind on the VCR to see if I can convince you to check out this charming, wonderfully written film called... "1994 was a hell of a year. It started with Ace Ventura: Pet Detective launching Jim Carrey's career. Carrey would obviously go on to become a comedy mainstay when The Mask became the fourth highest grossing film worldwide. The Lion King dominated the box office, beating out other heavy hitters like Forrest Gump, True Lies, Four Weddings and a Funeral and Speed. Not taking into account any of the other classics that came out that year, including Pulp Fiction and The Shawshank Redemption, still widely considered some of the greatest films ever made and cementing Quentin Tarantino as one of the great auteurs of cinema. So yeah, it's kind of no surprise then that nowadays there aren't very many people that remember this light-hearted, inoffensive comedy western from 1994. So let's talk about it more. After Mel Gibson's western drama Renegades with Julia Roberts fell through, Gibson fondly remembered the old TV western show starring James Garner. Mel and his producing partner Bruce Davey approached Gibson's friend Richard Donner to direct, and asked William Goldman to write the script. Maverick tells the story of Brett Maverick.
Good night, Bert.
Brett. Ooh, Bertie.
Bert.
Brett. My name is Brett. Brett, you're Annabelle Lee Scoop. I'm
An
Brett.
Old West gambler and self-confessed coward who goes on adventures trying to raise the money for a huge poker tournament. Along the way, he's paired up with a clumsy thief and a straight-laced lawman, and, as to be expected, wacky hijinks ensue. Meg Ryan was originally set to play the film's love interest, Annabelle Bransford, with Paul Newman set to play the role as the stiff-as-a-board lawman, Zane Cooper. Ryan eventually dropped out 2 weeks before filming, and Gibson met with Jodie Foster as a replacement. Now, this was in 1994, and Foster was already a two-time Oscar-winning actress, and she curated an image for herself as a serious actor in character-driven dramas. But apparently she got on so well with Gibson that she agreed immediately, and was having costume fittings within days. Newman had already dropped out and been replaced by Maverick alumni James Garner, a move that Richard Donner said was for the best, as Garner was much more game to improvise on the sets, something the cast were all encouraged to do. And this is partly why Maverick holds up so well. It's clear from Gibson's first scene and his interactions with the people that he meets that the film carries a light and breezy tone.
Well, he doesn't eat much, but he's a regular jackass. And he always likes to be called Arthur.
Everyone involved seems to be having a blast without ever feeling like anyone's phoning in a performance. Least of all Alfred Molina as Angel, a badass cowboy that serves as the film's primary antagonist, who I genuinely believe, without any hyperbole, gives one of the greatest performances I've ever seen in a film. Especially evident in his use of reactions in this scene where, after calling Brett a gutless cheat, Brett quickly dispatches a drunk group of locals with a bone to pick. His performance before and after the confrontation is a masterclass of nuanced acting, and Molina hits that sweet spot in which we know exactly what the character's feeling.
Hey, my friend, I'm sorry. No, I'm teasing you.
And on the topic of fighting, Garner's performance of Brett Maverick in the TV show was kind of suave and not opposed to the occasional tussle, whereas Gibson's performance is a little more quippy but also kind of flighty. Maverick does everything in his power to avoid conflict and violence, even if that includes learning how to impressively spin his pistol without any marksman skills, or paying off drunks to fall down in a street brawl to keep the local tough guys away. It's such an honest and refreshing subversion of the wandering cowboy trope, something the original series also tried to do, that you just have to admire it. I mean, honestly, just imagine being stuck in the Wild West with no inclination towards violence whatsoever. Maverick is a character who will do whatever it takes to make the least amount of trouble for himself as possible, and it's impossible to dislike him. It's also worth noting just how charismatic Gibson is in this film. Whatever your opinion of him are these days, Gibson's charm is natural and infectious, and those sparkling baby blues just capture your attention. It should also go without saying that Foster's performance is also equally great, but not being known for her comedy work actually makes it refreshing to see just how sweet and silly she can be.
Got any idea where this shirt was made, lady? Paris, France, that's where. You think I can just go to the nearest dry goods store and pick up another one?
Hey, why don't you just try the kitty department?
Annabelle is a thief and a con artist, but like Brett, has an easy way about her that's lovable. Her backstory is deliberately vague, and it becomes clear very early on that almost everything she says is a lie.
As I said, my name is Mrs. Annabelle Bransford.
Well, I think I caught that before, man. Except for Mrs. Park.
She deliberately rubs Maverick the wrong way, especially in the way her personality switches depending on whether she's talking to him or the Marshal. But like with all good comedy love interests, the conflicting personalities is just a deflection of the feelings that grow for each other. The film's direction is serviceable but not flashy, and the cinematography is beautiful and grounded, featuring some atmospheric lighting that feels really natural, lacking those oversaturated colours and brightness that modern comedy, if those still even exist, seems to be required to have. Donna paints a depiction of the Old West that is probably not completely faithful but completely comfortable. Maverick never seems to need to justify its existence, and judging by basically every piece of behind the scenes footage and interviews I could find, the cast and crew just seem to all be having the best time fighting around on set and making silly promo skits. Donna never took for granted that he was making a comedy, and every element of the film shines, from the polished and suitable honky-tonk sounding score from composer Randy Newman to a fantastic supporting cast featuring amazing actors like James Coburn, Graham Greene, Margot Kidder and Dan Hedaya. They also seem to have leaned pretty hard on the country and western part of the western, even going so far as to have cameos from a bunch of country singers and musicians such as Clint Black, Waylon Jennings, Vince Gill, and even Richard Donner's good friend Alice Cooper, all of whom made a charity single of Amazing Grace as a tie-in. The script itself holds up very well in what I would consider a perfectly structured screenplay by William Goldman, which should come as no surprise. The comedy may have been largely ad-libbed, but the twists, turns and double crosses never feel contrived, and the stakes are constantly being raised. The film's big centerpiece runaway stage sequence, for example, is played pitch perfectly, adding a genuine element of danger with its impressive stunt work, as well as balanced editing, while dropping in humor in a way that feels more like an Indiana Jones film. If there's any theme to Maverick, it's showing those parallels between being a professional poker player who must bluff and know the right time to show or hide their hand.
I didn't do any of my tails. I didn't play with my ring. I didn't twirl my hair. I didn't even flick my teeth.
You held your breath.
And the way Maverick's friends do the same thing over and over. With almost every interaction, Maverick is double-crossed, lied to and cheated, leaving Brett to gradually lose faith even with his closest friends. Even the kindly Joseph, a Native American played brilliantly by Graham Greene, skimps out on the money he owes Maverick and manages to turn it into a scheme in which Maverick takes all of the risk and Joseph secretly stashes the majority of the reward. This dynamic goes on throughout most of the scrapes that our heroes find themselves in, with the irony being that the one person Maverick slowly begins to trust is Annabelle. There's also a neat third act reveal which makes you feel silly for not picking up on it sooner, cementing how even the viewer is not immune to being bluffed or double-crossed in this world. Even now I feel like Maverick is kind of a hard sell. Westerns at the best of times seem to be a love or hate genre, and one that I, for the most part, am not the biggest fan of. On paper, it could easily come across as a fairly run-of-the-mill comedy, and maybe to some extent it is, but its execution is both charming and engaging, with a competent director that knows how to get great performances from this cast, and a fun script that satirizes the Western genre, while always finding new ways to pull the rug out from under the viewer. There are some romance elements to the film that aren't especially overdone, and some genuinely tense poker scenes that are shot in a concise and easy to follow way that even a poker incompetent like me can follow. If you can track down a copy of this wonderful film, I highly recommend giving it a watch, because despite being the 20th highest grossing film in the US in 1994, I think it's time to give it a revisit and see just how good this film is. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe if you enjoyed this video.
What the hell are you? Well, I'm Burt Maverick. No, I'm Brett Maverick, and I'm just here to...